In this video, we're going to focus on Maya's interface, just understanding what these different windows are. There's a whole bunch of different windows here, and for new students to Maya, this can be a little daunting. There's a lot of things going on. Not all of them you'll need right away. Most of these things, though, eventually you will be using. So the basic thing is, here's our workspace window. We've already gone over this before, and if you hit a space bar, then you'll get to a quad view window for Windows. And you can go over here if you want to. You can go your quick layout buttons here. So if you want to get back to just a single perspective window here. But the key things are, the main thing is up on here, up on top, you're going to have your regular pull downs. This is standard to any kind of Windows or graphic user interface type Windows system. You will have something here. We won't get too much into this right now, but these are your menu sets. So when you change these, you'll notice that some of these will change up here. The first 7 of these will stay the same, and then the others will change. Because in each different, they're basically the modules of Maya. So I gotta switch out of that. Yes, so, but you're going to basically just be working in these for your main input output type things, and then we're going to be generally always in modeling for the first part of this course. So that's your menu sets right there. And the most simple of the interface items are here. These are shelves. We've gone over this shelf here in polygon modeling. So this is where you get your polygon primitives, your basic objects. Now there's some other shelves. We're going to be using this at some point. This is curves and surfaces, which is a different kind of geometry. It's a different type of modeling. And we have our poly modeling. Then we have our sculpting tools. This is a kind of interactive kind of way to form objects organically. We won't be getting into any of these other shelves very much because these are for rigging. These are mostly animation oriented, but we will go to rendering. Rendering is the one we will be doing quite a bit of work in. So this is where we get lights and materials and things like that, different types of ways to render. So we'll get to that at a later lesson. So we'll get back to poly modeling, our default here. So that's our shelves. These are our shelves. Okay. And then the next thing up here on top, you're going to have, this is called your status line. This controls different ways to kind of pick and work with models. So we'll get to these more later, but a couple of these icons over here we're going to use a lot of, and some of these are some of the grid snapping and things like curve snapping. So that's some of the things we're going to be using a lot in there. And then up here, there's another thing too, which you should know about. We're not going to do anything with it now, but in the future, when you start working on Maya in different ways and get more complex, it has a whole bunch of different interfaces you can use for doing different things. So when you open up here, you'll see you have all these different kind of window sets here. So you have modeling, you have sculpting, you have poses, you have rigging, animation, rendering. So let me just pop on a few of them. So here's just a modeling window. Here we'll go to a animation window. So this is whole different. These are how you animate. There's your timelines down here. And let's see, we will go to rendering. We will be doing quite a bit of rendering in class. So this looks quite different. So if you notice, it's a different looking scene there. So anyway, but if you do change things around, like we won't be getting into these right now. So we're probably, and pretty much most of the semester will probably be just into my classic standard view. So that's where we'll be mostly. There's a couple of these other icons here too that do different things. This is giving you the modeling toolkit, which you see, which is a tab over here. These give you some other tool controls, which we'll get into at a later date. So we're going to get back to the standard setup. Okay, so here we go. There's that. So if you notice too, when I was over here, there's these little tabs on the side. So this is our channel box and layer editor. And there's something called a modeling toolkit and attribute editor. So you access these by clicking on them. okay? And your default is your channel box and your layer editor. I'll explain some things in there in a minute. And on this other side over here, we've gone over this a little bit. This is the outliner. This is basically gives you a hierarchical view of what your objects are in your scene. Like right now, we just have some cameras in here, and we have some default lighting. So what I'll do is I'll put a cube in the scene. Okay, there we go. I will zoom in on it a little bit. Okay, just so we can see it a little better. And if you notice, whenever you put the new object in something, then it pops up in here. So you see it and it gives it a default name here. Okay. Now, also too, I wanted to do this because now over here, this pops up over here as well. So there's a bunch of controls in here. So in your channel box, this allows you to do certain things with the object. In the transforms tutorial or video, we did a little bit of moving an object around in here. So you can type in numbers in here and things will happen. The channel box tends to be used more in animation. You have some animation control, especially when we start keyframing. You'll see more controls pop up here, and this gives you just a direct kind of numerical control. The geometry also has this underlayer here, which is called inputs, which you can change things here. There's a video just on changing objects and restructuring the objects, which we'll go over in more detail in the class. And then down here, this is your layer controls. So layers are very useful. I'll make a layer right now. So the layer control you'll use most is this one here. This is a really useful one because this is when you pick your object, you just click it, and now your object is automatically on a layer. So, and then now layers, you have these little controls here. So I can switch it on, I can switch it off. So if you have a scene with a lot of objects, layers become very useful. And if you want to change the name of your layer, you double click on this, and a dialog box will pop up and you can rename it there. And you can also change the state of your object here. This is called template. So you just see basically a wireframe of your object, and you can't really do anything to it. You can pick it. And then you have something called reference, which is also, you can see it better, but you still can't pick it. Okay. But we'll get more into layers later. There's another lesson just on layers. The other thing here as well will be the attribute editor. So let me select the object. Okay, object is selected. So if you see, there's a lot of tabs in here. At first, people don't really play around too much in the attribute editor. Later on, when you start, changing some things in your Maya and you get more used to the program, you'll start working in the attribute editor a lot more. So this also has, this basically is the same thing. You can just type in numbers and like the object will move. So what I'll do is I'll type in 1 here. Okay, see now it moved. So you can do different things in here. So I'll just type 0 because it takes us back to 0 position. I could scale something up if I wanted to. We could rotate it. So yeah, you can get controls here. I'm not going to play with this too much. Here, I put it on a layer, so it's telling me the layer. You can rename your layer here as well. This tells you what level the layer is and controlling it. So if you want to access the layer there, that's another place. This is kind of nice. This allows you to do some different things, like if you wanted to scale your object with a slider or typing in a number. So we wanted it 2 times wide. So we wanted it higher. So we wanted it too high. You could do stuff like that in here. And then there's something else we can start doing here. Let me reset these. Go to 1. Go to 1. We can give subdivisions here. So you can do that graphically. Like if you want more subdivisions, and this will come into play later when you're starting to model the different components of an object. Okay, so we could give it 2, 2, 2. Oops. Yeah, so now it has more subdivisions. Okay, so I'll reset these. All right, so there you go. That's that. Now I'm going to go back to the channel editor default, and you see I have my little layer there. I can change that there. Okay. So yeah, that's our scene here. Going over the outliner as well. There's a couple more things. We've gone over these. These are your quick layout button. So these will give you different layouts. And the last little bit I wanted to show was this is your panel toolbar. So this will give you a bunch of different controls on how you want to view your model and how it's displayed. This controls the window itself. We're not going to get too deep into some of these things. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. But like at first, this is what you call shaded mode. So there's a little icon, and sometimes when you mouse over it, you'll see it'll bring up a little info box. So if you wanted it wireframe, you could click on wireframe. You click on shaded. I find this mode useful. This is wireframe on shaded. This is a useful way to view things because then you can see what's going on with the object, but you can also see its components. You can switch off your grid, switch it on. This one we'll be getting into. There's a whole lesson on this one, image planes. This is when we want to start using drawings and images to model from. And these are camera controls. Later, as we start getting a little more sophisticated with cameras, we'll be playing with those quite a bit. And a few other things here. We'll start when we start adding lighting and texture mapping. These are all icons, so we'll make your life easier for viewing in Maya. So those are the basics. If you, these are everything you'll need to at least get started with Maya and with just your interface and kind of getting in and around your model and seeing what these different things are. All right, on to another lesson.